This weekend, we will have what they call in my business a split-screen moment. That's where armed Marines will join the National Guard as uninvited troops in LA to police a civilian protest that local law enforcement had well in hand. The situation, it was incited and inflamed by a president who, beyond his misuse of military power, is seemingly hopeful his invented crisis will spiral out of control. As America watches that situation unfold, protests across America are expected tomorrow, in part to condemn an administration's immigration policy that is morphed from deporting violent criminals to rounding up workers at Home Depot, snatching up kids and parents at school pickups, and duping people to show up for immigration hearings only to slap the cuffs on them. Americans who agreed that greater immigration enforcement was needed are suddenly seeing staples of their community being thrown into vans by hooded ICE agents without warrants, without notifying their families, without due process, and then being sent to foreign prisons in countries they couldn't find on a map. So as these protests swell in red and blue states, with the specter of our military on domestic soil eyeing their fellow Americans, at that same moment on Saturday, our president will be throwing himself a military parade. Now, you may remember he tried to do the same thing during his first administration, but unlike now, there were adults in the room back then, including military leaders who talked him out of it, explaining, quote, "That's what dictators do." Lawmakers from his own party cautioned that a parade would be a sign of insecurity, that unlike Russia, China, or North Korea, the United States didn't need to have a military hardware display. Well, such notions of propriety almost seem quaint in retrospect. Trump has openly talked of his admiration of dictators, and in his first 5 months has certainly done a great impression of one. But this parade isn't just bad optics and messaging, it's also bad politics. The parade is expected to cost upwards of $45 million, including millions in repairs to DC streets after the tanks roll through. Add this to the $134 million it's costing taxpayers for the unnecessary deployment of the National Guard and Marines in LA, and you can expect the offensive price tag to serve as a perfect contrast to the millions of Americans who will lose health insurance with Trump's Medicaid cuts to finance tax cuts for billionaires. But it's more the national priorities that should concern us with Trump's manipulation of our military. Earlier this week, Trump again trashed military traditions in his address to soldiers at Fort Bragg. In what was billed as a speech to rally our troops, it was anything but. And what we learned was a staged event where soldiers who were either didn't identify as Trump supporters or were not pleasing to the eye, whatever that means, they were removed from the backdrop before Mr. Trump. He then launched a tirade targeting, among other groups, his political opponents.
You never had a crowd this big. That's an honor. You think this crowd would have showed up for Biden? I don't think so. Remember, it was only that little brief moment that it wasn't called Fort Bragg. It was by the Biden administration, not Trump. I had nothing to do with it. We will not allow federal agents to be attacked, and we will not allow an American city to be invaded and conquered by a foreign enemy. And that's what they are. A lot of those people were let in here by the Biden administration. They just poured right in.
He took aim at the governor, trying to deal with his manufactured crisis, replete with lies, of course.
Now, you don't have to take this if you don't want. You could be great patriots, say, I don't want to raise. I will not accept it. Let it go back into our country. Let's give it to Gavin Newsom so he can waste it in Los Angeles.
He even encouraged our military to turn against a free press.
And for a little news for the fake news back there, the fake news, ladies and gentlemen, look at them all. Oh, what I have to put up with. Fake news. What I have to put up with.
And to ensure that the scene had devolved from the surreal to the unimaginable, he announced he would rename U.S. bases after Confederate traitors.
For a little breaking news, we are also going to be restoring the names to Fort Pickett, Fort Hood, Fort Gordon, Fort Rucker, Fort Polk, Fort A.P. Hill, and Fort Robert E. Lee. We won a lot of battles out of those forts. It's no time to change.
Whether Trump knew or didn't care that he violated military regulations in using our troops as props is almost besides the point, considering we know that as a convicted felon and non-patriot, the rule of law means nothing to him. There is a reason that active duty service members are not permitted to attend political rallies in uniform. As Tom Nichols pointed out in the Atlantic piece he recently authored, they are not allowed to express partisan views while on duty or to show disrespect for American elected officials. Senior officers knew this, but stayed silent. What lesson will that send to those young men and women who we rely on to put country before politics? The silence of the Army Chief of Staff, General George, has been deafening, as has been the silence from the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs and even the commander of the airborne troops and base commander there at Bragg. These men, they assume the great responsibility for the defense of our nation and the welfare of our troops. They know the cancerous threat to cohesion if they tolerate Trump to continue to message, as he did at Fort Bragg, that our Army is, quote, his military, end quote. They know no man, especially this man, comes before the Constitution. They know how, when given a chance to serve, Trump chose to dodge the draft. They know he has demeaned heroes who served in his place, POWs, disabled vets, and even those who made the ultimate sacrifice, calling them losers and suckers for giving their lives in defense of our democracy. It is that democracy Trump now wants to pervert. And in the cruelest irony, the insurrectionist is looking to use our national defense against a nation that he swore to defend. So I ask our military brass to once again show courage and possibly even risk their career and once again put their country first. Just because he throws himself a parade doesn't mean he deserves it.